And after 9 months, I was able to lose 77 pounds. And all my chronic diseases has completely disappeared. I don't have any headaches anymore, no back pain, no chest pain. Every single ailment is completely gone. And in fact, for the past 8 years, I've not been sick a single day.
What if the truth came in a gel cap and we could just pop it in our mouths and forget about it? Well, it doesn't, and we can't. But we can laugh in the face of reality while plotting our survival. Welcome to the Truth Tastes Funny podcast. I am your host, Hirsch Redpun, and if my guests can handle the truth, so can you. Open wide, folks. Here it comes. My guest today on Truth Tastes Funny is Olivier Mankondo. Olivier is a speaker, he's an author, he's a weight loss and wellness coach with a passion for helping people achieve optimal health. He's been able to lose about almost 80 pounds in 9 months, reverse all of his chronic diseases, slow down quite dramatically his aging process, which I certainly would like to hear a little bit about, and adopting plant-based nutrition, which I also am very interested in, and as a matter of fact, have just kind of started a plant-based diet. So in any event, Olivier, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
It's great to have you. Let's begin with why you decided to lose the weight and how your health influenced what you're doing now.
Yeah, so what's happened, I need to go a little bit back in time. So what's happened is that I grew up in Africa. And when I was growing up at that time, there were no computer games, there were no video games and stuff like that. So we were forced to play outside, running around, climbing trees and all these things. So we were always in movement. And at that time as well, I was not exposed to a lot of animal product, dairy product and processed food. And because of that, when I was growing up, I was very lean. So I didn't have that problem of being overweight and stuff. It's only when I left my country, I went first to South Africa, where I spent a year. And then I came to the UK. And here I was exposed to a lot of animal product, dairy product, and processed food. And that's when my problem started. I started to put on weight. And at my heaviest, I was 220 pounds. And because of that, I started to have a lot of problem with my health. And one of them was high blood pressure. And people need to know that high blood pressure is a very dangerous disease. And 50% of people who suffer from strokes, from cardiovascular diseases, and from kidney failure, it's because of high blood pressure. So it's very, very dangerous. And I even remember that there was a day when I was waking up around 3 a.m. with a sharp pain in my chest. And the pain was unbearable. And here at home, my family had to call the ambulance because it was not well, I was not well, basically. And at the hospital, they told me that my blood pressure went through the roof. So that's what I was suffering from. And apart from that, I had massive headaches every day and every other day. And in fact, I had to have some painkillers in my wallet all the time because of that. I had dandruffs, chest pain, back pain, abscesses, joint pain, and a lot of dental problems because I developed a very bad eating habit. So for example, until midnight, I will still have my bottle of Coca-Cola with some biscuits, some cakes and stuff like that. And I was always tired. So for example, on the day that I had to go to work, I will drag myself out of bed. And on the day when I was off work, I will sleep until 1 p.m. So that's the situation in which I was. And I didn't know what to do. But as like everybody else, I went to the doctor. And the doctor told me that I'll be on medication for the rest of my life. And even though I didn't know what I know now, but instinctively I said, no, I don't want to go on medication for the rest of my life. And he said, okay, what are you going to do? I told him that, okay, I'm going to join a martial art club. And basically what's happened is that I joined a karate club. I was there for 4 years thinking that my blood pressure will come down, but there was no changes.
What was the club you joined?
It was a taekwondo.
Oh,
like a
okay.
taekwondo club.
Martial arts, right.
Yeah,
okay.
martial arts.
But it didn't help.
No, it didn't help. So I was lost. I didn't know what else to do. So just out of the blue, one day I was just watching a program on YouTube, and there was an Indian yogi who suggested that by just stopping eating animal product, it was possible to reverse 70% of the chronic diseases.
Wow.
And because my health was pretty bad, I said, okay, I'm going to do that. So it was a Wednesday that I watched the program. On Thursday, I came back from work. I had my last meal of meat. And on Friday, I went cold turkey. And what happened is that after 4 months, I went back to the doctor who told me that I would be on medication for the rest of my life, and my blood pressure was completely gone. And after 9 months, I was able to lose 77 pounds, and all my chronic diseases has completely disappeared. I don't have any headaches anymore, no back pain, no chest pain. Every single ailment is completely gone. And in fact, for the past 8 years, I've not been sick a single day. And for the past 9 years, I've not taken a single pill, not even an aspirin or a paracetamol. And on top of that, I've been able to slow down my aging process, because a lot of people, when they see me, they think that I am in my late 20s, but I'm actually 54. So that's what I've been going through. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. So the key was plant-based. In other words, the key was getting off of meat.
Yes, that was the key. So the key was to get off all animal product, all dairy product, and most processed food. Because when you look, you will see that, for example, if you look at the animal product, when you look at the bowel transit time, which is the time that certain type of food takes to pass through a system. So for example, if you eat a piece of fruit, it will take 3 to 4 hours to pass through a system. You eat raw vegetables, it will take around 12 hours. You eat cooked vegetables, it will take between 24 and 30 hours to pass through a system. But if you eat meat, fish, or chicken, it takes 72 hours or 3 days to pass through a system. So meat passes through the system very slowly. That's why carnivores have got very short intestines. Fruit and vegetables pass through the system very quickly. That's why human beings and herbivores have got longer intestines. So that's why let's say, for example, if you take a piece of meat and you leave that outside for 3 days, when you come back after 3 days, when you leave that during the summer, when you come back after 3 days, that piece of meat will be in a rotting state. You will see maggot, you will see flies, and it's going to stink. And when you look at the internal temperature of a human being, it's 98 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hot. So when we eat meat, the same rotting process that I've just described to you, it's exactly it's going to happen inside our guts. And that's why you will see a lot of people will smell bad. And other people, for example, they can brush their teeth as much as they want, but they still have a foul breath. It's because of all this rotting stuff. And when you look as well, you will see that meat has got no fiber, and it creates constipation. And there are people who can take 3 days, 4 days, even a week without going to the toilet. And the fecal matter, the toxins will be reabsorbed into the bloodstream. And that's why a lot of people will start suffering from high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer, Parkinson, arthritis, and all the autoimmune diseases where the body destroys itself, like the inflammatory bowel disease, the lupus, the psoriasis, the rheumatoid arthritis, and the list goes on. So you can see that.
Oh, I was gonna say. So now, what do you say to nutritionists or advocates who say that steak, meat, these are the naturally good foods to eat? They'll say, yeah, there are doctors and nutritionists who will be big advocates of meat. And what are they saying, and how are they wrong?
Yeah, because like I've just said, for example, just the example that I've given is that the meat has got no fiber and it creates constipation. And when you are constipated, it's going to create a lot and a lot of problems. So this is not good, for example. And when you look as well, you will see that, for example, when you eat a lot of animal product, it's going to create what is called the IGF-1. And the IGF-1 is basically linked to cancer. And even, for example, when you look at the processed meat like salami, bacon, hot dog, sausages, they are classed as group number 1 carcinogen by the World Health Organization, just like smoking. So you can see that the animal products are really, really not designed for the human mechanism. And so basically it creates lots and lots of problems. And even when you look, for example, at the doctors or the nutritionists who will tell you to eat animal product, but you can see that when you eat all this food, it's not going to give you optimal health, because even when you look, for example, you will see that when you eat fruit, vegetables, legumes, grain, nuts, and seed, they are living food. Why do I say that they're living food? Let's say, for example, you've got a green banana. If you leave it there, after a couple of days, it becomes yellow, ripe. And if nobody eats that banana, the rotting process will start maybe after a week, 10 days or something like that. So you can see that the banana had a life. But when you look at animal products like fish, chicken, meat, and all that, as soon as the animal dies, the rotting process starts immediately, which means that it's dead food. We are living entities. We've got living bodies. So we need to eat living food so that it can give us life. But when we eat dead food, it's going to give us death. And that's what I will say to these people.
Yeah, that's a good argument. Now, I mentioned that just coincidentally, I had decided that for the next month, I'm not going to eat any meat products. Now, I still eat dairy. I still eat dairy products, some cottage cheese, things like that. What is a typical diet what is your typical intake now?
Yeah, so for the time being, what I eat, what I only eat is fruit, vegetables, legumes, grains, nuts, and seed. So basically, it's the stuff that grow in nature, God's food. That's what I eat.
Mm.
So, for example, I eat all kinds of fruit. For example, mangoes, bananas, oranges, clementine, nectarine, pears, and stuff like mushrooms, yam, plantain bananas, brown rice, stuff like cauliflower, beans, lentils, chickpeas. So it's only the stuff that grows in nature. So that's what we need to eat. Because when we eat, for example, processed food, all this processed food have got stuff like additive,
Oh
coloring,
yeah,
flavoring,
chemicals and
preservative, which are chemical substances not recognized by the body, and they create havoc. And when you look, you will see that as a race, 51% of what we eat is processed food, 42% are animal product, and only 7% is fruit and vegetables. And unfortunately, in those 7%, the majority is potatoes to make French fries. So we eat very, very little of fresh produce. So typically what I eat is what grows in nature.
but to make it interesting or palatable, you must have come up with or found some recipes that are tasty. Obviously, vegan diets, plant-based diets, very popular now, gaining popularity. That's one of the reasons for my change was that I started to give we started to give our kids little more plant-based foods and less meat. And I was like, I should try that. Even poultry, I'd been eating a lot of, but I felt like it's too much. It's just too much. It feels like too heavy. That's what my sense was. I was starting to get full from that feeling of those heavier meat products.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you eat all this animal product, it's going to make you bloated.
Yeah,
You're going to
bloated.
feel
Yeah.
bloated and all that. But when you look, for example, at the fruit, vegetables, legumes, grain nuts, and seeds, they are very light on the system. And for example, when you have to digest all this food, like I just said, the bowel transit time is very quick. So your body will spend less energy to digest all this food. And when you look at fruit, vegetables, legumes, grain nuts, and seeds, they've got enzymes, and your body will not have to produce that. But when you eat animal product, your body will only be able to digest 20% of the meat. So it's a very, very heavy process on the system. And especially, for example, when you eat meat or all these things, you will see that, especially if it's heavy meal, maybe after 15, 20 minutes, you start dozing off because you will see that most of the blood will leave your brain area or your head area and will go to the stomach area to start the digestion process. So it's very, very heavy on the system.
Yeah.
So yes, that's it. That's it. When you eat all this food, you will feel bloated and all that, which is completely different when you eat the plant food.
Now, what's your favorite meal?
My favorite meal, because at the stage of my life now, I eat 98% of what I eat is raw, and only 2% is cooked food. So what I like is fruits. And the fruit that I like the most is mangoes. So that's what I like the most.
Now, once you've adapted to a diet like this, your cravings are probably reduced considerably, right? When we eat
Yeah.
more sugar, we crave sugar. We crave a lot of what we are already consuming. So, how much fruit, for example, do you eat? In other words, what fills you? What gets you full? How much?
Yeah, I eat a lot and a lot of fruit. So, for example, in the morning, for example, I will have maybe 6, 7 bananas, and I
Wow.
will
Okay.
have, yeah, and I will have, for example, 3 to 4 apples. I will eat all that. Or, for example, I can eat an entire, what is it called again? Watermelon. I will
Uh-huh.
eat an entire watermelon. Or I can eat, for example, 5 mangoes. So it's I eat really I take that as a meal, not as a like a dessert. I will eat a
Right.
lot of fruit. Yeah. So for
Ah,
example, for my meal this night, what I had 7 clementines and 1 orange. So I eat a lot of fruit. And but what people need to understand is that when you eat the fruit from the sugar from the fruit, it's completely different from the fruit, the refined sugar. It's completely
yeah.
different and it doesn't give me any cravings.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So eating sweet fruit doesn't make you crave sugar. It's not going
No.
to make somebody want to eat chocolate, you know. Now, that brings up an interesting question for me, which is that my favorite thing in the world is chocolate. That's a thing that I love. That flavor of chocolate. Obviously, carob has a little bit of kind of a chocolatey flavor. Are there natural foods that substitute for some of the foods that we've come to really love?
Natural food, I don't know, but what I've seen mostly it's the vegan alternative. So, for example, people like you said that you like chocolate. There are some vegan chocolate that you can still have, and sometimes I have that as well. Yes, I know that at the end of the day, they are still processed food, but you can use that as a replacement. So instead of eating the chocolate made with cow's milk, you can have the vegan chocolate. Or, for example, or for people who still crave, for example, ice cream, instead of having the ice cream made with cow's milk, they can have the ice cream made, the vegan ice cream. And I believe they are made with soya or something like that.
Hmm.
So the people can still find all these alternative. Or, for example, if you crave meat, maybe you can eat tofu, maybe you can eat tempeh. So there are some stuff that you can use as an alternative instead of having the food that people are used to eat.
Right. And you've created the three-step weight loss and wellness program, right? So tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that.
Yeah. So there are 3 steps. So the first step in my program is the mindset, because the mindset is very, very important and it's paramount. It's the most important thing because you can even eat the best food in the world, but if you don't have the right mindset, it's not going to work. And what people need to say to themselves is that they need to entertain a positive winning mindset. They need to say that it's going to work, they're going to win. Because a lot of people, when you tell them, okay, you're going to start a plant-based nutrition, the first thing that they will tell you, oh, it's going to be too difficult, or I love my meat, I'm not going to be able to do it. And as soon as you say things like that, you're not going to, you are bound to fail because your subconscious mind, which is very powerful, will make sure that you fail. So people need to have a winning mindset. And they need as well to, when they start this process, they need to take that as a lifestyle and not as a diet. And on top of that, they need to surround themselves with a supportive community because when you are on your own and stuff like that, it becomes very, very difficult. So the first step is the mindset. The second step, obviously, is to adopt a plant-based nutrition where you eat fruit, vegetables, legumes, grain, nuts, and seed. And why these food are good, it's because they've got a lot of fiber. And when you eat all this food with fiber, they're going to make you full very quickly, and you will tend to eat less frequently, and obviously you will start losing weight and you will receive all the benefit. And the third step is to adopt, to incorporate intermittent fasting, because in our society we've been told that we need to eat constantly, and people
Yeah.
don't know that when we eat all the time, when you have something to eat, when you're digesting food, your body will spend 80% of its energy to digest the food. So the digestion is very, very heavy on the system. And that's why people need to start incorporating intermittent fasting. And why is it very important? It's because, for example, when you are eating constantly, what will happen is that your body will start producing insulin all the time. You will have peaks of insulin. And when you have peaks of insulin, basically what will happen is that you're going to have what is called cellular aging. You will start aging very quickly. And obviously, you will die quicker. And what people need to understand as well is that when you are eating, when you're digesting, the body will produce insulin. And there's another hormone which is called the human growth hormone, which is there to for the growth of the tissues in our bodies. And basically, the body cannot produce these two hormones at the same time. So it's going to produce either insulin or the human growth hormone. And when you are constantly digesting food, the body won't be able to produce the human growth hormone. And on top of that, the process of healing and cleansing can only be done when you're not digesting food. So it's like, for example, if you take your car to the garage, you cannot drive it at the same time. So the body can only do the healing and cleansing when you're not digesting food. And on top of that as well, the body, when you're not digesting food, the body will go through a process which is called autophagy, where it's a process where the body eats its own waste. So you can see that it's very, very important to do the intermittent fasting. So basically, that's the three process for my program.
And the fasting, to reiterate, is to give your digestive system a break.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break and let it maintain itself so that it's not working all the time. So your book is called The Plant-Based Nutrition: How It's Going to Change Your Life. That's also been translated into French. You speak four languages. You speak French, English, and what else?
Kikongo and Lingala.
Yeah.
Languages originally from where I'm from, the
Yes.
Congo. Yeah.
And where are you living now?
I'm living in the UK.
Ah, okay. And how are you finding that? How do you like of the places you've lived? How do you like the UK?
Yeah, I like it, but I don't like the weather. It's too cold. I don't like yeah, it's too
That's for
cold.
sure. I'm in
Yeah.
Iowa. It's very similar to London. It's just,
Yeah.
well, it's colder than London, but we had our first snow today, and yeah, do you find that also affects your system, your health and happiness, the weather?
Not really, but I would imagine that it will be better for me if I can live in a hot climate. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm thinking maybe in the next 4 years I will move back to Africa where it's hot
hmm
because I don't really like the cold weather. I don't like
I
it.
I'm with you, Olivier. And what's next? What are you working on? Are you working on another project?
Yeah, for the time being, what I would like to do is because as a speaker, I've been speaking only in the UK. Now, what I would like to do is to go elsewhere, for example, coming to the US or Australia or in the Middle East. So I would like now to broaden the places where I'm speaking. And maybe what I would like to do as well in the maybe next 5 years or something, I would like to have a retreat center where people can come maybe for 3 days a week or something like that, when they can immerse themselves with like-minded people and learn all these plant-based nutrition. Because what I've noticed is that, like I was saying, people need to surround themselves with a supportive community. And what I've noticed is that, for example, when you would like to change your way of eating, and for example, your partner or people around you don't support you, it's become very difficult. But if people can find themselves in a place where they can learn all these things, they can be with like-minded people, it's going to be easier. And that's what I would like to do in the next 5 years.
That's wonderful. Lots of really good, valuable, useful, actionable information in here. I'm glad for the timing. I have toyed with putting, kind of setting meat aside for a while, but now I'm really doing it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with? And also let us know your website and where they can find you.
Yeah, where people can find me, first of all, I would like to give your viewers or your listeners my 7 tips to lose weight. These are the same 7 tips that I've used myself to lose those 77 pounds, and I would like to give them free of charge. And for my book, for people who are interested, they can go on Amazon. They can have that over there. And or they can go on my website, which is oliviermankondo.com. That's oliviermankondo.com. And over there, they will be able to have it at cheaper. And on top of that, they will be able to have 4 bonuses. And for other people who would like, they can book a discovery call with me. And on the discovery call, we're going to look at their priorities, their health concern. We're going to discuss their diet history and have a look at their current lifestyle, including their routine and habit. We will also going to work together to identify any limitation and change them so that we can create a plan of action that overcomes these limitations and set them on a path toward achieving the short and long-term goals. And also during this call, we're going to establish if there's a good fit. And if that's the case, then we'll be able to work together. There will be an opportunity to work together so that we can address all these issues once and for all. And what I would like to leave your viewers or your listener with is that when we are born on this earth, the most important thing that we have, it's our body, it's our temple, and we've only got one. So we need to make sure that we are in good health so that we can live a longer and fruitful life. And what I really, really want people to know is that when in the society, we've been told that when we grow older, we need to be sick. But this is not true, because when I started this process, I was 46. Today, I'm 54, and my health is getting better and better. So I would like to really, really let people know that being sick is a choice. It's possible to live a disease-free life. We don't have to be sick. When we start eating the food biologically designed for the human mechanism, we start entertaining positive emotion most of the time, and we control what we put on our skin and on our hair. There's no reason why we need to be sick. So that's why I really, really want people to know that they can do that. And for people who say that I'm too old, it's not true. They can still do that. Even if they are in their 50s, their 60s, their 70s, it's not too late.
Thanks so much for tuning into Truth Tastes Funny. If you enjoyed the experience, please leave a 5-star review and share this podcast with your friends.